manager. And then we have Karin, healthcare administrator. I think for that is the first two. We are expecting more to come in. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, no problem. I'll just keep going with the presentation. I wanted to get a sense of who's on the call. So thank you everybody for that. My name is George Asamani, and I'm business development leader for Africa at PMI. You know, as the title of the talk, you know, it's about PMP and Capm, some of the trends that we're seeing in the industry, certifications, and career trajectories in project management. I'm not sure how many people are aware of PMI, but you know, in a nutshell, PMI is an organization that helps other organizations. We work with the organizations across all sectors to improve their performance. So whether we're talking about mining, whether we're talking about agriculture, technology, PMI is present there. And you know, our focus or our mission is to make reality. That's what we do. We help other organizations to make reality, to execute. A bit of further background: we were founded in 1969. We are essentially the world's leading organization when it comes to project management certifications, project management standards, and training as well. We're present in over 200 countries. We work with hundreds of organizations, and we have chapters and volunteers all around the world. So we're a really global organization. Everything that we do, all our standards are global. So you can you take some of our certifications or standards, you know, wherever you are. You could be in Ivory Coast, you could be in Senegal or Cameroon, and you know, you operate at the same standard or as somebody else in the rest of the world. So our certifications are global, and that's a huge selling point or a huge advantage of our network, that it's a global network that operates at a really standardized global level. In terms of our presence in Africa, we're present in, we have chapters in 20 countries in Africa. And what a chapter is an independent legal entity that has been set up in the country by professional project managers who are passionate about the project management profession. In addition to the chapters in 20 countries, we have members in many more than the 20. Could I just ask, if anybody's not speaking, do you mind just going on mute, if that's okay? Okay, thank you. So as you can see from the map, we have a very wide Africa-wide coverage. Some of the organizations that we work with, I'll give an example. IBM, we've been working with IBM since the beginning. What IBM does, or what our partnership with IBM looks like, is, you know, IBM uses a lot of our certifications for their career development. So just to give you an example, if you're a senior person in IBM and you want to move up into more senior ranks, you actually have to have the PMP certification or a relevant certification from PMI. You cannot actually get into senior leadership in a delivery role unless you have these certifications. So IBM works closely with us to upskill and to train their staff, in addition to also directly, so like training their staff on our certifications. They also use our standards. They use our standards to create their own internal certifications and career path. So IBM is somebody that we work very closely with. In addition to that, we also work with Saudi Aramco. I'm just giving examples of the work we do. So we work with Saudi Aramco, and a typical example of something that an organization like them would have done is they would have used our standards actually to look at portfolio management when looking to diversify a project portfolio. So for example, moving from being a crude oil provider to a diversified product offering. We also work with institutions like universities. So for instance, we've worked very closely with the University of Pretoria in South Africa, where we worked on what we call the project management skills for life. And that's all about training young people. So that's people in secondary school and universities, the basics of project management. And then finally, just giving examples of some of the work we've done, working very closely with the Tony Alumni Foundation. They're the largest entrepreneurial foundation in Africa. And our work with them was really about delivering webinars related to entrepreneurship and how project management can improve entrepreneurship. Because when you look at the top 5 reasons, or one of the top 5 reasons entrepreneurs fail, a big one of those top 5 reasons is actually the ability to execute. When you talk about the ability to execute, a big part of that is actually project management. So this webinar series we ran with the foundation was about, how do we make sure that you execute in every part of your business? So whether you're talking about strategy, how do you execute? If you're talking about risk management, how do you execute? If you're talking about sort of like, lean startup and agility, how does that relate to project management? So this was a very, very popular series that we ran on where project management benefits entrepreneurship. So now you know a little bit about what PMI does. Let's just talk about global trends and the future of work. This is one of the main topics of today. Let's think about what's happening in the world right now. And actually, in the spirit of being interactive, if you don't mind, again, just put in the chat, 1 or 2 lines, what is happening in the world right now in terms of macro trends. Type it into the chat. What, from your point of view, what are some of the macro trends? And then it'd be good to see what sort of responses we get. Just in 2 seconds, just type what is happening in the world right now, trends. I'm gonna see if I can see the chat. Or maybe it's easier if you can read out, if anybody has posted anything.
Let me do that.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. So what's happening in the world right now? So it goes without saying, COVID has been a massive shock. But aside from that, over the last few years, there have been several trends dominating the headlines. For instance, in the last few years, we've had a really heightened awareness of the finite resources available. So meaning that we're more and more concerned about scarcity, or the potential for scarcity or resources. Simply put, resources might run out. Whatever raw materials or natural resources, or even manufactured resources that we produce, there's more awareness about the need for just taking care of that. There's a need for sustainability. When we talk about the need for sustainable energy, we're also becoming more and more vocal about our supply chains. So even when we're not talking about scarcity, we're questioning whether our sourcing is ethical. When we get our resources from XYZ country, what's the impact on the local community? That's more and more of a trend. If we look at Africa, in Africa, the fact that the economy is going to double in the next 40 to 50 years is a huge deal. It's not only going to impact Africa, but it's going to impact the rest of the world. And for instance, where are we going to house everybody? Where are all the Africans going to work when the population doubles? What's the competition for work going to be like? And on top of all these trends, we're also seeing that technology is accelerating a lot faster than organizations and people. Things are changing a lot faster in today's world of work compared to many years ago. And what we also see is that, of course, technology is increasing very fast, as we see in the chart, but people and organizations are not increasing as fast. So that could potentially be a risk. Of course, technology is a benefit. Technology is advantageous, but if we don't keep up with that rate of change, there's a risk that technology is not only a benefit, but also is a risk. And we see that in automation, where automation has already taken over many people's jobs. Technology is playing a huge role in work itself. All these global trends, or all these global shifts, as you call them, they require some kind of response from organizations. We see a pattern. We see a pattern of shock, sense, and then respond at speed. So the shift creates a shock. Then organizations feel or sense the shock, and then they need to figure out how do they respond at speed. Shock, sense, speed. But this is what we see as a response right now. Right now, existing organizations, they'll think about implementing new ways of working, or they'll think about new business models or new operating models. In the case of the COVID shock, the immediate response was to isolate. And then as people are isolating, we're thinking about, okay, how else do we respond? Is it a vaccine? And obviously creating a vaccine, that's a massive project. But it's interesting that we've seen what should take 10 years, taking 10 months in terms of creating a vaccine. That's a hyper project. But the other response, aside from what existing organizations are doing, the other response we're seeing is from a large number of new organizations, such as startups, that are formed specifically to address new shocks or these kind of shocks. So the response to shocks is essentially change and transformation. The response is to solve specific problems in specific timeframes. All these changes and transformations are projects. This is what projects are. And so the world is becoming projectified. So these changes are happening all over the world. Organizations and people are running more and more changes and more transformation projects than they previously have. And so, at PMI, we say that the world is becoming projectified, and we call this the project economy. The project economy is impacting organizations as well as people. It's, as we saw in the previous chart, technology is accelerating at an incredible rate. So individuals need to change their way of working, and so do organizations. Organizations are even further behind. And these changes and responsibilities they're not limited to just a special project or a special team or a special PMO. Literally everybody has to get engaged. Everybody has to be part of the response. Everyone has to have a part to play. And we see the project management or the project economy spreading out beyond just project managers or project management teams. That's why we call it an economy, because now it involves everybody. It's not just those special project manager guys. It's the whole. It's everybody. So what do we need in order to respond to this adequately? So in order to meet the challenges of these shocks, or the shocks, the sensing and responding, organizations have to become what we call gymnastic. So they have to be very agile, they have to be strong, there has to be a focus, they have to have special tools and techniques, they have to be artful in how they respond. And we're seeing that actually those organizations that are able to respond most successfully are those ones that have several characteristics. For example, those who have a great understanding of the use of technology. We call that the technology quotient. How well do you understand and use technology? Are you embracing it and using it as a tool, or maybe you're not embracing it and it's more of a threat? So that's number one. Organizations have a high technology quotient, meaning that they're able to embrace and use technology. The second characteristic we're seeing of successful organizations is that they actually use specific skills to address the problem. So whether we're talking about scheduling, having specialized scheduling people or tools or skills, planning skills to actually get the job done. And then the third is what we call power skills. Successful organizations have people with really strong power skills. And the power skills are the human skills that make a big difference. They're the human skills that cannot be replicated by machines. They're the skills that cannot be automated by the machines. So these are skills like empathy, like leadership, like communication. We're seeing that organizations that are the most successful have very, very strong power skills. So at PMI, we say that our part is about powering the project economy. We power the project economy through best practice project management. And by that I mean about traditional project management as well as agile project management across, from heavy industries to digital industries. This chart I'm showing right now, this is a recent survey by McKinsey. They reported that as organizations prepare for the future, as they reskill, as they prioritize looking forward, one of the skills that they focus on, one of the skills that successful organizations prioritize is project management as a top skill. In fact, it's actually fourth on this list. Project management is critical to where the world is going. So where does PMI fit in? How do we fit into the picture? So essentially, just to give you an overview, I'll say we fit in three buckets, or we address the project economy in three buckets. On the left-hand side, you can see that's thought leadership and professional networks. We have the biggest network of project managers in the world. We have what we call the Education Foundation as well. That's about empowering youth and young professionals on skills and benefits of project management. We have a lot of thought leadership. So that's articles, that's research about specific aspects of project management itself. So we're not only talking about project management as a whole, but there's a lot of detailed research and also training and certification on very specific aspects of project management. In the middle there, you see certifications. So this is what most people are very familiar with. We're familiar with the PMP and the CAPM. These are the global benchmarks, the gold standard in project management. So we lead the way in actually creating the content and the intellectual property behind these certifications that help to keep people ahead of the game, being able to deliver in their work. In the middle there, we've got Discipline Agile. That's our agile offering, because of course, as the world has become a lot more digital, how we execute projects needs to fit the digital world. So there's a lot of we have a lot of training and material on project management, on the agile and the digital side of things. And then in the middle at the bottom there, Brightline. We did some work with BCG, the Boston Consulting Company, sorry. And what came out of that research was that, and it may be obvious to some of you, but a lot of companies spend a lot of money on strategy design, strategy thinking, paying to big firms. But then there's a challenge in actually executing that strategy once it's designed. So there's a gap between strategy, design, and delivery. So this offering that we have, Brightline, is about helping to bridge that gap between strategy and execution. And then on the right, we've got the standards and digital products. So these are things like the PMBOK guide. Many of you may be familiar with this. This is one of the standards that actually feeds the certifications that we have. And then we have many other standards that also feed into the certifications. And then on the bottom right, you've got some of our digital tools, Snippets, Navigator, Projectified. These are our podcasts that help you to learn. One Navigator is about helping you to design your career path. And then we have many other digital tools. So these are sort of like how we support the world as it's become projectified, and as people want to upskill and move ahead in their careers. This slide here just shows how it all fits together. We have what we call our 5 to 75 strategy, meaning that from the age of 5 years old, we want to support people, and in this case, young people, whether you're in so like primary school or secondary school or early career, through the Education Foundation, PMI Education Foundation. We want to help you to develop your thinking in terms of how to achieve a goal. You know, it could be, I want to build a toy car. How do you do that? You know, what do you need to think about? What resources do you need? What's your timeline? You know, how are you going to manage your risks? And so we have what we call the Education Foundation, which I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, as people get older, you know, from early career to mid-career to senior career, you know, this is how the offerings I mentioned earlier, this is how they're lined up to each stage of a person's career. And each of these offerings that I showed you, they line up to what we call the talent triangle, because we're all about helping you to make sure that you have a balanced skill set. And this is what the talent triangle is about. So on the left-hand side of the talent triangle, we have what we call ways of working. And these are our technical skills. So we are, you know, some of our offerings will line up to technical skills. On the right-hand side, we have power skills, which I talked about, you know, the skills that are not technical and cannot be replicated by machines or technology. Skills like leadership and empathy. So again, you know, some of our courses will line up to power skills. And then at the bottom, we have business acumen. That's at the bottom of the talent triangle. And these are skills that really help in terms of context. So for example, you know, you might have exceptional technical skills or exceptional ways of working, but if you don't have the business context or the strategic and business management, then you may not be as effective as you could be from an overall delivery point of view, where you need to be able to demonstrate the value and even communicate why that value needs to be created in the first place. So you know, just as a summary, this talent triangle helps to frame all the resources I showed in the previous slide. So this next slide, actually, this is what I've just explained. So I'm gonna skip forward from that. This slide here is about the power skills. I talked about power skills being the skills that machines cannot replicate, and you know, it includes collaborative leadership, empathy for the customer, innovative mindset. You can see the list there, and you'll notice that these are largely, as I mentioned, non-technical and associated with emotional intelligence. In a world which technology automates more of our daily routine, these people-centric capabilities are more important than ever before. I can come back to those that list if people are interested. So just coming back and summarizing, you know, what I've said so far is that we're at a time in the world where a lot of changes are happening a lot faster than in previous decades. We're having these shocks which we sense and that we need to respond to at speed. And you know, more and more of these are being responded to in the form of projects, and the whole world is experiencing this. This is what we call the project economy, and how PMI tries to equip people within the project economy is through these some of these resources that you see on your screen at the moment. And if I just dive specifically into the PMP, which you see in the middle. So we've been running this year this initiative called the PMP initiative, and we've obviously entitled, as you see there, "Are you PMP ready?" You know, this is just as good as saying, "Are you ready for the project economy?" And you know, so throughout this year, we've been helping to equip our partners and our customers and individuals across Africa to just equip themselves on the skill of project management, to be able to deliver and execute in this environment that we've been talking about. I think we've offered about a 15% discount just to encourage people to get it done. You know, one of the other offerings we have is an initiative on the CAPM initiative, on the CAPM certificate, sorry. The CAPM is a Certified Associate in Project Management. People like to refer to the CAPM as the baby brother or the little sister to the PMP, because it's based on the same foundational principles of the PMP, the Project Management Professional. It's about looking at risk management, stakeholder management, cost management, etc. So all the foundational principles of project management, but it's aimed at people who are maybe not ready for the PMP just yet, or they're still early career, or some people just don't need a PMP, but some people want the foundational principles, and the CAPM gives them that. On the screen here are just some of the courses I mentioned that are part of the CAPM. And I think it's really important to mention one of the reasons I showed both the PMP and the CAPM is that, of course, in today's economy, you have those people who will be leading projects and who absolutely need to be skilled as much as possible in the project management certification. They need to know the detail, and they'll probably be the people who are leading the projects. But at the same time, you have the rest of the organization who will not necessarily be leading the project, but because of where we are today, everybody needs to be aware and involved. And people will need to be able to know how to communicate in project language. People will know how to understand and play their role, even if it's not, as I said, as a leadership role. And this is where some of the other certifications, aside from the PMP, so some of the other certifications like the CAPM, that's where they're very, very beneficial. So just to wrap up what I'm saying, what am I saying? I'm saying that as we look to the future, we literally have to be ready for anything. Already we're seeing material change. Actually, in terms of material change, 2020 is probably the biggest material change any of us has seen in our lifetime. Material change meaning the most drastic change in our way of working, in our economies, in our lifestyles. And so we're seeing a lot more material changes in recent times than in the past. The third point there, project managers are change makers. And this is what I was saying, that it's not just about the guy whose title is project manager. It's not just about the people who are in the project management team. It's about also the rest of the organization, because the whole organization is part of making that change. So project managers are change makers, and the rest of the organization are also change makers. And that also addresses that fourth point that I mentioned there. The PMO, the project management office, is moved from just being an office responsible for delivering specific projects in the specific team to an office that is now central to the organization, where people in finance work with the project management office, people in accounting or operations work with the project management office, because that tends to be the central hub that coordinates all the operations around the office. So that's all I have for today. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to go into the questions.
Thank you, George. Thank you for the stellar presentation. Yes, our participants, please, you're open to questions at this moment. If you have a particular question, I would like you to, if you can't post, or rather, if you can't voice out your question, you could post it on the chat line. All right, so. If you have a particular question, please, we would like you to unmute, kindly unmute. Maybe somebody is struggling to unmute, or you can post on the timeline. Okay. Okay, while we're waiting for any questions or reactions, I would like to say congratulations and thank you again, Josh, for the presentation. I think you've touched a whole lot of dimensions to the project economy, digital economy, and the future of work. And I think participants today will know exactly what next steps to do or to follow. So while waiting for the questions, we'd like to introduce the next session that will be starting by 2:30. That will be the French. And for those of you that could not follow in English, I think the session in French would much appeal to you. So 2:30 p.m., that will be the time for the French session. So between now and then, we would be taking your questions or maybe any particular orientation you may need or specialized knowledge. You may just as well benefit from this. Okay. Okay, I don't think there is any question coming up already.
Sure.
Maybe our participants are still digesting. All right, so once again, Josh, thank you very much.
No problem.
We do have upcoming sessions that will be next week, Sunday, at same time, and Sunday after next. But I think your presentation today will go a whole lot, a long way to open the understanding of many. I think we'll post to those that would not make it, because I think we have close to over 200 registered participants to this event. So
sure, great.
Yes, so we will get it across to them, the clip. All right. So
hello.
Hello. Yes, please.
So sorry for being late, but I post my question on the chat.
Okay. Sorry. Let me check that. Okay. What will be the main changes to PMP exam next year? Okay. All right, Josh, please. If the main changes to the PMP exam next year.
Sure.
That is Mr. Isidore wants to know.
Okay. So the main changes, that's actually a good question, because sometimes there's a bit of misunderstanding. The content is still very, very much similar. The main change is the structure. So whereas, previously we've had a lot of content specifically on, it's like traditional project management, and we've touched a little bit on Agile. Now the structure is so that the content will focus a lot more on Agile as well. So it's not that there's going to be new Agile material, but there's going to be more time given to Agile, if I could put it that way. Again, simply because of where the world is now and where it's going from a digital point of view. And just to add to that, people think that next year, there's going to be PMBOK 7, and the exam is changing in line with PMBOK 7. Just to clarify that's not the case. We're still in PMBOK 6. Next year it's still going to be PMBOK 6. Yes, PMBOK 7 will come out at some point, but the date hasn't been confirmed. But that doesn't matter, because the exam is based on PMBOK 6 and also several other standards. So I'm saying a lot of things at the same time. I'll just repeat myself. Number one, it's the format that's changing, not the content. Number two, we're still using PMBOK 6, but in addition to PMBOK 6, there are several other sources of exam questions or exam standards that are going to be used. I hope that was clear.
Okay, it's clear. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Whilst we're waiting for the next question, I think maybe I also just want to throw in something here. You know, we've been talking about, you know, moving into the world of digital, number one, and then number two, the fact that the rest of the organization is getting involved in project management and digital. So how does the rest of the organization get involved in digital? Especially if they're not professional software developers or coders. And that's one question that we've been addressing. Some of you may already know, you know, there's some things going on with other technologies, you know, technology companies. I'm not sure if you've heard of citizen development. And citizen development is the idea where a citizen, as in a normal person who is not a professional coder or not a professional software engineer, a regular person can just build an app. A regular person can just build a product using this software, this new citizen development technology. So you have a lot of these large big tech companies who are working on who've built these citizen development platforms. Imagine it as like icons and windows that you can put together yourself to create an app. So it's a relatively new concept. There's some citizen development platforms that are available online, but what PMI's role is going to be, or is looking at how do we educate people on that. So we've created some early material in terms of like training and learning, so that people can come to PMI to learn about citizen development and then go to use some of these technologies that have been created already. So I wanted to flag that as something that people should look out for, because that's where we're heading. As I said, people in companies are getting involved in project management. Digital is happening, and non-digital people are being equipped to build digital platforms. And how are they being equipped? That's what we're addressing at the moment. So it's something that you could look at.
And so, Josh, that would connect still with project management. Is that the intersection of that with project management?
Sorry, say that again.
Would that have the intersection with project management as, let's say, citizen
developer?
Developer, yes.
Yeah. So sorry, just to be clear, it's not part of the PMP exam or anything like that. It's what it is it's another tool. It's a separate tool, and the relationship with project management generally, or with a business generally, is that in a lot of businesses or organizations, you have people who, for example, somebody in finance needs a solution to be built by the IT department, right? But then the IT department is dealing with a lot of people from finance, a lot of people from operations, a lot of people from marketing. The IT department becomes overwhelmed or overburdened because there's so many things that they have to build, so many technologies that they have to build, or so many projects that they have to run. So one way of freeing up the IT department is to allow other people who are not in IT to build their own solutions. And that's what citizen development is about.
Thank you very much. Okay.